Good morning, everyone. Am I audible and visible? Can you please let me know? Audio, video, all clear? All right then. So let's begin with the remaining portion of budget, right? Yesterday we were discussing the fourth priority, which is manufacturing and services. We have discussed the fourth priority. Today we are going to discuss the fifth priority, which is urban development. What all schemes are there? Today I'll try to complete all these priorities, right? And then the remaining portion is not so much, not too much. It is just indirect taxes. What are the provisions for indirect taxes, and then what are the provisions for direct taxes, and what important schemes are there. Just this much will be remaining after this, right? So today we'll try and complete all these priorities which are there. I hope in maximum 2 parts it should be done now, because not much is remaining, right? But let's see, I'm not very sure about it, but I hope so that in maximum 2 parts it should be completed, right? I'll try to complete it in less number of parts. So let's begin with the analysis. So in front of you is the fifth priority among the 9 priorities which we have discussed in the initial discussion of the budget. The fifth is urban development. What the budget holds for urban development. First is cities as growth hubs. So the government wants to develop in collaboration with the state governments, cities as growth hubs. So urban development, developing these centers, these cities as growth hubs, proper hubs, Yes, you can expect questions in IFSCA as well. You can expect questions from budget in any examination, because budget is a very important document. All schemes, whatever the government is planning to do is there. So just go through it quickly, right? And we will try and complete this thing very quickly. Okay. Then, so cities as growth hubs, right? Working with these states, government will facilitate development of cities as growth hubs. This will be achieved through economic and transit planning. So basically what the government is planning to do is, government wants to have economic as well as transit planning for certain cities and develop them into growth hubs. Transit planning, so all your transit modes like public transport, all your modes of transportation, all your transit planning to develop proper transit facilities in the cities, right? So government is planning to do that. This will be achieved through economic and transit planning and orderly development of peri-urban areas utilizing town planning schemes. So whatever peri-urban areas are there, which are just outside, say, or just near the properly developed urban area, so they want to develop them into growth hubs, incorporate them into urbanization, and then develop them into growth hubs. Then creative redevelopment of cities, for creative brownfield redevelopment of existing cities. Also, whatever existing urban areas or cities we have, we want to have brownfield investment into them for redevelopment. You know what is brownfield and greenfield investment, right? I have discussed this with you. So greenfield is when you start something or you invest into something right from scratch. Yes or no? You all know this, right? We have discussed this thing in FDI as well. And brownfield, when you have existing structures, you just try to rebuild something over it, right? So brownfield investment they are planning to do into these cities. Okay, so they will formulate a framework for enabling policies and market-based mechanism to achieve this thing. Then transit-oriented development. So it is not only a focus on economic development, they are also focusing on transit development, transportation development in the urban areas, right? All the modes of transit which are there. So transit oriented development plan for almost how many cities? 14 large cities. 14 large cities with a population of above 30 lakh will be formulated, right? So their target is 14 large cities with a population of above 30 lakh. So this is the thing. Then also urban housing. Of course, urban housing is something important without which urban development is incomplete. So urban housing, when we talk about PM Awas Yojana, which is already there, but 2.0. So PM Awas Yojana, very important initiative for providing urban housing. PM Awas Yojana 2.0, they are planning to, initiate, with housing needs of almost 1 crore urban poor and middle class families will be addressed with an investment of 10 lakh crores. So via this scheme, they want to address the housing needs of how many? 1 crore urban poor. 1 crore urban poor and middle class families. So remember this figure under PM Awas Yojana 2.0, 1 crore urban poor and middle class families they are targeting. Okay. This is the thing. And next, if you see under this only, so investment will be of 10 lakh crores. Investment will be of 10 lakh crores for this urban housing scheme. Then this will include the central assistance of 2.2 lakh crore in the next 5 years. Also, particularly for this urban housing, the central assistance will be provided to this scheme, which will be of 2.2 lakh crores in the upcoming 5 years. 2.2 lakh crores in the next 5 years, upcoming 5 years, right? A provision of interest subsidy is also there. So interest subsidy, providing concessional rate of interest, loan at the concessional rate of interest. So providing interest subsidy to facilitate loans at affordable rate is also envisaged for urban housing. So providing loans at affordable interest rate is also one of the part of this broader planning for urban housing, right? Then a provision, so this is done. In addition, enabling policies and regulations for efficient and transparent rental housing markets with enhanced availability will also be put in place. So also trying to develop the rental housing sector in the urban housing area. This is important. You remember, just remember the figures. All other things are just common, they have always been in public discourse. You know all these things. So just remember that their target is 1 crore urban poor and middle class families, and then the outlay will be 10 lakh crores. And the central sector assistance, FSR2 is soon going to be there. It might be there today only. So FSR part 2 is remaining. We will complete it very quickly. Okay. So you might have a lecture today or else otherwise tomorrow. Okay. We also have the report on currency. So we will also do that report. Don't worry, we will do everything. Okay. So this is regarding urban housing. Then moving ahead, water supply and sanitation. So in urban development, what does the budget holds for water supply and sanitation? Let's see. In partnership with the state governments and multilateral development banks, so this cannot be done alone by the central government. So you need stakeholders' participation. So in partnership with your state governments and the multilateral development banks, the government is planning to promote water supply, sewage treatment, have policies for proper targeted policies for sewage treatment, solid waste management projects and services for 100 large cities through bankable projects. So 100 large cities, remember from here. Water supply and sanitation is their target to improve water supply facilities, sanitation, waste management in 100 large cities with the help of multilateral agencies and your state governments, right? So this is the thing. Next, if you see street markets, because when we talk about urban development, urban hearts are also an important contributor to urban economy, right? So building on the success of PM Swanidhi scheme, you all know what is PM Swanidhi. PM Swanidhi is, yes, anyone? You all know what is PM Swanidhi, right? So this scheme has been targeted for the, so street vendors, this scheme is for providing financial assistance and, yes, anyone? What is PM Swanidhi? So I just gave you the hint. It is for street vendors. You must know all these basic schemes, right? Important schemes. All right. I know you all know what is PM Swanidhi. So this is targeted for providing financial assistance to your street vendors, right? Building on the success of PM Swanidhi scheme in transforming the lives of street vendors, government envisions a scheme to support each year over the next 5 years the development of 100 weekly carts. So street market budget says that we will have 100 weekly carts. Okay, this is also adding up to the objective of PM Swanidhi. Sorry, isn't it? Because PM Swanidhi is for the development, for the promotion, for the well-being of the street vendors. So when you have these carts are your local markets. You know, they are organized periodically. So you can have weekend carts, you can have carts, you can have these markets on particular days in different cities, in different villages, right? So these are your local markets where then you have these people selling their products. So it will provide market access to your street vendors. So remember, 100 weekly carts or street food hubs in selected cities is their target. 100 weekly carts. Remember the data. It is easy to remember 100, right? So 100 weekly carts is the target. Again, assisting the street vendors, helping them grow in the process. Next, stamp duty. So here you have government in urban areas, you know. So you have these documents, whatever property registration related documents, if you want to transfer some property to someone, all these things. So government levies fees on this. This is what we call as stamp duty. You all know that, right? So stamp duty is levied on these documents by the government, although it is a state subject. So it is a state subject, stamp duty. Union government cannot levy stamp duty on a lot of things, right? So it is restricted only to certain items, certain documents where it can charge this stamp duty, but majority of the documents, majority of the stamp duty or such fees is charged by the state governments because it is a state subject. So stamp duty budget says that the government will encourage states which continue to charge higher stamp duty to moderate the rates for all. So the government will encourage states to moderate the rates of stamp duty and also consider further lowering duties for property purchases by women. This is important. So in that case, what will happen, you know, registering, transferring property, all these things will be lesser expensive. So you have to incur extra cost in the form of stamp duty, right? So lowering that can further accelerate the process of urban housing. This is what the government thinks. Also, government wants the states to lower these stamp duties, particularly for the properties which are being owned by the women. So women empowerment or including women in this process, mainstreaming women in the urban housing process, urban development process is also the target, we can say. This reform will be made, you know, an essential component of urban development scheme. So this was regarding your urban development. We have seen that they are planning to have hearts, they want to reduce the stamp duties, they want to have cities as growth hubs, all these things, right? Very simple, just remember the facts. Then the sixth priority which we have is something really important. Sixth priority. So the sixth priority is your energy security. Energy security. You know, this is something from which no government can abstain in present time, right? Energy security. Constantly, with growing population, with growing industrialization, manufacturing, there is constant pressure on energy requirement. So energy consumption is constantly increasing. At the same time, we have pressure to manage the emissions, to reduce, to cut down the emissions, right? From all these energy generating sectors which we have, whether they are coal based, thermal power plants, right, hydropower plants, whatever they are. So if energy is such important sector, you can have a whole lot of schemes in the budget. So this is your energy security. First thing the budget highlights is energy transition. Energy transition. So the government says that government will bring out a policy document on appropriate energy transition pathways that balance the imperatives of employment growth and environment sustainability, which is to say government is constantly trying to have a transition from, say, polluting sources of energy or non-renewable to renewable, more sustainable sources of energy, right? So we want to have this at the global level. We have these conventions, we have nationally determined contributions, our own targets we have to reduce our dependence on the non-conventional sources, to reduce our dependence on the polluting sources of energy. So this transition is the highlight. Then PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana, this is important, which is highlighted in the budget. PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana. So it was also announced in your interim budget. Okay, in the interim budget, PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana, it has been launched to install rooftop solar plants. So this is to promote installation of rooftop solar plants. So it promotes solar energy as well as it also enables families, so install rooftop solar plants to enable 1 crore households obtain free electricity up to 300 units every month. So they will get electricity. There will be electricity penetration in the remotest areas, and then also it will be pollution free, right? It will be green energy, it will be sustainable energy. So this is the thing. So they are planning to further enhance this scheme, further implement this scheme properly. Remember this thing, rooftop solar plants to be established. So 1 crore households is their target, and up to 300 units will be free. Remember, up to 300 units will be free. This scheme has already generated, remarkable response with more than 1.28 crore registrations and 14 lakh applications. So this is something which people really want to be engaged with. Okay. So remember, PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana, how many people? 1 crore households, not people, 1 crore households had the target, and up to 3 units every month. This is a good amount, right? Up to 300 units every month will be free. Also sustainable, greener energy, solar panels, right? So this is the thing. Next, pumped storage policy. Also a policy for promoting pumped storage projects will be brought out for electricity storage and facilitating smooth integration of growing share of renewable energy with its variable intermittent nature. So basically storing the electricity, particularly storing the renewable electricity, is also their target. Storing the electricity storage, particularly integrating the the renewable electricity storage in the process of growth in every sector, right? So this is their target under pumped storage policy. This will be a pumped storage policy. So storing electricity is another important dimension here. Next, what you have is research and development of small and modular nuclear reactors. From here you can have a question. There is an MOU signed between, MOUs are important, yes or no? So they ask you any MOU which is there in the scheme or the budget. So there is an MOU between NTPC and BHEL. So regarding this, we are coming to it, right? So this can be important. Research and development of small and modular nuclear reactors. Nuclear energy, as you all know, is the need of the hour, right? Nuclear energy, it is sustainable, as you know, and less polluting. So, but heavy nuclear reactors is something which we still are working upon. It requires huge capital, right? But we can have modular small reactors. This is what the government is targeting right now in the budget as well. So they are planning to have, we are coming to it, right? Bharat small reactors. Remember this term, BSR. This is something they have highlighted. So it is also a modular nuclear reactor, small nuclear reactor, right? Not very heavy. So Bharat small reactors, as the names suggest you. So small reactors, these can be installed and operated easily as compared to the heavy reactors, right? So this is Bharat small reactors they want to establish, and the first one they are planning to establish in Tamil Nadu, Kalpakkam, right? In Kalpakkam. So you can remember this fact as well. The first one will be established in your Kalpakkam, Tamil Nadu. Is this clear? So Bharat small reactors. Also, so these are small reactors they will be establishing for nuclear energy production. Then research and development of Bharat Small Modular Reactor, R&D also will be done here. R&D of newer technologies for nuclear energy, whatever technologies we can explore, we can capitalize upon for nuclear energy generation, will have R&D. And then R&D and funding announced in the interim budget will be made available for this sector. This was also announced in the interim budget. So whatever fund will be required to develop such small nuclear reactors, the government will be dedicatedly funding it in the upcoming years. Is this clear to everyone? All of you? Till here, right? Any doubts? Any doubts so far? So just remember the Bharat small reactors, right? These are important, I can tell you. So BSR. No doubt so far? Okay. Next thing which under the energy security, the budget has announced is advanced ultra supercritical thermal power plants. Advanced ultra supercritical thermal power plants. Now this was the MOU I was talking about. So this is a joint venture basically between your NTPC and your BHEL, right? Between NTPC and BHEL. So advanced ultra supercritical thermal power plants. What is the objective? The development of indigenous technology for advanced ultra supercritical thermal power plants with much higher efficiency has been completed. So we are on a path. We have almost completed the technology for developing such thing. Now, what is the importance of this? So, you have these thermal power plants, they use coal, they are not very efficient. There is a lot of CO2 emissions out of these thermal power plants. So, what these advanced ultra supercritical thermal power plants will be, they will be more efficient. They will be operating at higher temperatures and pressures, which will make them more efficient. Right? So more efficiency, lesser requirement of coal will be there and lesser emission of CO2 will be there. This is the thing. This is the importance basically. Just remember this much. Okay. So they will be operating at very, in contrast to the conventional practice, they will be operating at higher temperatures and pressures. This will improve their efficiency. Right. So advanced ultra supercritical thermal power plants. This the government wants to have to improve efficiency of these power plants, because India is so much dependent on thermal power. We cannot immediately eradicate the thermal power. Are you getting my point? So this is the thing. Next important fact, you can have a direct question from here. Remember this thing. As I told you, this is a joint venture between NTPC and BHEL, and the capacity will be full scale 800 megawatt. So remember this thing, joint venture, this advanced ultra supercritical thermal power plant, joint venture between NTPC and BHEL, and 800 megawatt commercial plant. Okay, using AUSC technology will be there. So government will provide the required fiscal support. Finances will be done by the government. Government is dedicated to support such projects. Also, the government wants to have more indigenous capacity for production of high-grade steel and other advanced metallurgy materials for these plants, which will result in benefits for the economy. Government wants to have indigenous technology. We want to reduce our dependence in energy sector as well. We also want to have high-grade steel and other important metallurgy which are required in these thermal power plants as well, or any other important sectors of your energy related areas, right? So government wants to have high grade steel and other metallurgy materials for these plants as well, so that it can benefit the entire economy. Because when we develop our own indigenous technology, it will benefit us, right? We will not have to pay huge import bills in that case. Simple. Then there is something called hard to abate industries. Hard to abate industries. What are these hard to abate industries? They have a roadmap for hard to abate industries as well. There are certain industries which it is almost impossible or next to impossible to make them pollution free, because they are in such a nature, the technology deployed is of such nature, they use coal and all these things. So there are certain industries which is very difficult to make them or to convert them into less polluting industries, like your cement industry, like your coal, like your steel, like your thermal power, right? So there are these core hard to abate industries which are there. Then what to do with them? Because you actually they emit, you cannot do away with the emissions in such industries. That's why they are known as hard to abate industries. So a roadmap for moving the hard to abate industries from energy efficiency targets to emission target will be formulated, but the government is dedicated that no, we will try to cover these industries as well in our sustainable energy project. So government wants to have a roadmap, they will formulate a proper plan to convert them or to make a transit from earlier energy efficiency targets to emission targets for these industries. Now, what is the difference between energy efficiency targets and emission targets? When we talk about energy efficiency targets, we are particularly talking about reducing the energy consumption, right? So energy efficiency targets are, you should minimize your energy consumption in sectors, right, as much as possible, not compromising with the development needs as well, of course, right? So these are your energy efficiency targets. They particularly target the consumption of energy, reducing the consumption. But emission targets, they target the emission, the polluting gases or the greenhouse gases which are there. Yes. So emission targets are, they target the gases, greenhouse gases, they target the polluting gases, right? So this is the thing. So government wants to have proper plan that these industries, we will not only limit their energy consumption, we will also formulate a plan so that they also come under the reduction in emission targets, right? So they also fall under the emission target category. So these are the plans for hard to abate industries. I hope this is clear to all of you. Also, then appropriate regulations for transition of these industries from the current perform, achieve and trade mode to Indian carbon market mode will be put in place. So remember this terminology. They have said that we want all these huge industries which are heavily contributing into these emissions, greenhouse gas emissions and polluting gases, we want them to transit from perform, achieve and trade. So right now you should know this, that the government is very dedicated to develop Indian carbon market, right, where we trade carbon credits, right? So you have carbon credits, you have limits how much, say, carbon dioxide you can emit, right? Once, say, if you exhaust that limit, you have to buy other credits from the market, right? And if you have surplus capacity remaining, you can sell it and then earn. So this can be a proper market. We want to have our own Indian carbon market for that matter, right? Internationally, this is being practiced a lot, as you all know. So carbon trading basically. This is what the government wants to have for hard to abate industries as well. They want these industries to be actively participating in such carbon trading and develop and be a active contributor in Indian carbon market. They can use more energy, but they have to offset it with carbon credit. So basically, that's what I explained to you. How does carbon trading works? You have limits, you have permits, right? If you exhaust it, so if you buy, then you have to pay. So at least when you pay, you realize that there is a cost to something. Environment is not for free, right? So this is how an efficient market also develops, and then producer responsibility also gets strengthened. Clear? Right? So this is the roadmap for hard to abate industries. Then further discussing the support to traditional micro and small industries, of course, an investment grade energy audit. Energy sector, when we are talking about, we cannot ignore the traditional industries, small industries or micro industries. So the government says an investment grade energy audit, how much is your energy efficiency is, what all sources you are utilizing for your energy consumption, right? Is your energy consumption way too beyond the desirable limits or not? So these kind of audits they are planning to have for traditional micro and small industries as well, apart from those big industries which we have talked about, hard to abate industries, right? So apart from such giants in the market, they also want to have energy audits for micro, small and other traditional industries, and also facilitate sustainable energy production and consumption in these industries. So their target is 60 clusters of such industries, including brass and ceramics related industries. So remember this figure, for this energy audit, their target is 60 such clusters of traditional micro and small industries, 60 clusters, right? Which also includes industries, factories related to brass as well as ceramics. Clear? So just remember this figure, 60 clusters. This is important. How many clusters? 60 clusters. Okay. Also, financial support will be provided for shifting them to cleaner forms of energy. Say if they find that these clusters, the sustainable energy production is not possible here. So, in these clusters, formulating a proper roadmap so that they can also be shifted to sustainable forms of energy, like the hard to abate industries, having a proper roadmap, properly formulated plan for that. Okay. So energy efficiency is their target, be it big industry, be it a traditional industry, or be it a small or micro industry, right? Shifting them to cleaner forms of energy and implementation of energy efficiency measures. So here also they want to implement the energy efficiency measures. Okay. And the scheme will be replicated in another 100 clusters in the next phase. Remember this thing, original is 60 clusters. Remember this data. Originally they are targeting 60 clusters, but after this phase is done, we are successful in this phase. In the next phase, next 100 clusters will be the target. So 60 original clusters. In the next phase, their target will be 100 more such clusters. Is this clear? Right? So this was regarding your energy sector. You remember that joint venture between NTPC and BHEL, right? Remember the importance of such power plants, as I told you, 800 megawatt. All these figures I am highlighting again and again, so that it becomes easier for you to revise. Just revise these figures at the end. Okay. Need not understand all these concepts again and again. Just go through the lectures once and then write down these facts and then go through these facts. Okay. And whatever is important, I am already highlighting for you. Right. So next priority which we have in the series is infrastructure. 7th one, infrastructure. Infrastructure, again something very, very important. It is the backbone of development of any sector or any economy. You cannot develop without infrastructure, be it any sector or any economy, right? Now, infrastructure investment by central government. So, under the 7th priority which they have highlighted, they want to have significant investment from the central government side as well for infrastructure development. So, capital expenditure basically, as we call, right? In the proper budget terminologies, we call it as capital expenditure, whatever you are spending on development of assets or infrastructure, right? So, significant investment the central government has made over the years in building and improving infrastructure has had a strong multiplier effect on the economy. The budget highlights that the government is constantly improving its capital expenditure, which has helped the economy to grow and will help the economy grow in future. Government will endeavor to maintain strong fiscal support for infrastructure over the next 5 years as well. Okay, that's why we have discussed this thing that 11,11,111 crore, this much is the budget outlay for capital expenditure in this year's budget. We have discussed this figure in the very first class, if you remember, right? So remember this figure 1111,111. This is easy to remember. You will remember. So capital expenditure figure No one will forget, because this is a unique number, isn't it? 11 lakh, 11,111 crores. Okay, so reduction of liability via payment of principal amount of loan by government also count as CAPEX, capital expenditure, because it's impacting balance sheet. You tell me this thing. Yes, anyone? You only will tell me whether reduction of liability via payment of principal amount is capital expenditure or revenue expenditure. Tell me this thing. We have discussed all these things in the very initial classes. Anyone can tell me this thing, okay? I'll be waiting for your answer. Just try and give the answer to this question. We have seen, I have told you, okay, I have told you that remember the difference between interest payment and capital expenditure, right? Confirm nahi hai. So that's why you should have confidence. See, what is revenue expenditure, what is capital expenditure, we have discussed. In revenue expenditure doesn't changes your asset liability condition, but if you are say repaying your loan, so it reduces your liability. So no confusion, right? Isn't it? It reduces, clearly reduces liability. Should be confident in these answers, okay? Now, so this is the figure, and this amount is, you know, almost 3.4% of GDP. Remember this is very important. These kind of figures, how much percentage of GDP is, or GDP figures, GDP forecast are important for your examination. So this capital expenditure amount will be 3.4% of your GDP. Will be 3.4% of GDP. Next thing, infrastructure investment by state governments. So central government is dedicated for infrastructure. We have seen the amount as well, and that would be 3.4% of the GDP. Remember this thing. Government will encourage states as well to support similar scale of infrastructure allocation. Okay, they also want the states to participate. Sorry. So they also want the state to participate. A provision of 1.5 lakh crores, remember this figure, 1.5 lakh crores for long-term interest-free loans has been made this year to support the states in their resource allocation. So in the process of infrastructure, so if say any state wants to have funds for infrastructure development, and for such kind of resource allocation, the central government has announced 1.5 lakh crore long-term interest-free loans. This much amount will be there. They will be in nature of long-term loans and interest-free loans. This is indeed a great initiative, although it will cause the central government coffers. They will have a cost on the coffers, but still it will assist the states in the infrastructure development process, isn't it? So remember the figure, 1.5 lakh crores long-term interest-free loans. They have made this provision this year to support all these states in the process. Remember this, okay? Next thing, private investment in infrastructure. In investment in infrastructure by private sector, they also want private sector to actively participate in infrastructure development. So the government wants to have PPP models and all. So infrastructure development is not solely the responsibility of the government, although government is responsible for the public welfare, but still having more private sector in the process of infrastructure development can reduce the burden on the central and state governments. Also providing, when there is private entity coming into a picture, they come with the state of the art technology, they come with technical expertise, efficiency, so that can also be integrated in the infrastructure development trajectory, right? So private participation is also there. They will support these projects via viability gap funding. This is something which we have discussed yesterday. I have told you what is viability gap funding. So there are certain projects in which you incur a huge cost for starting the project, for installing the say factory or industry, but then the returns or revenues which are expected, there's a time gap, a longer time gap sometimes, right? So in between you require fund to sustain the project, so government will support that gap, to fund that gap. Okay, that will be your viability gap funding. Then next in the series is Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. Of course, this is something you all have heard. There have been different phases of this scheme. So Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, providing all weather roads in your rural areas. Phase 4 of this scheme, will be launched again to provide all weather connectivity, all weather roads to how many rural households? 25,000. Remember this, 25,000 rural households under the phase 4 of Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, which have become eligible in view of their population increase, because population is increasing, so it creates pressure to have proper infrastructure related to transit as well, right? So 25,000 rural households, 25,000 rural households under phase 4 of Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. Remember this thing. Next thing which we have is irrigation and flood mitigation. This is something which government cannot ignore, right? So irrigation and flood mitigation. Bihar, if we talk about the infrastructure, these are very important infrastructure which we require. Irrigation we require, as well as flood mitigation. There's a lot of damage which these flood cause to the economy, right? Be it economy of a state, not only economy, to precious lives of the people, right? Every single life is precious. So having proper flood mitigation projects, having irrigation projects is another priority in this year's budget. Bihar, frequently faces floods, right? So Bihar has frequently suffered from floods because many of them, they originate from Nepal. There are a lot of rivers originating from Nepal going through Bihar, right? So Kosi River, of course, you all have heard Kosi River. So plans to build flood control structures in Nepal are yet to progress. Government wants to assist in such flood mitigation projects to protect the state of Bihar from incurring the losses or the damage caused by the flood. Government through accelerated irrigation benefit program. So this is the program via which the government is targeting to have proper irrigation related and flood mitigation project as well. Accelerated irrigation benefit program and other sources will provide financial support for projects with estimated cost of 11,500 crore, such as the Kosi-Mechi intra-state link. So this is another important project here. For Bihar, government is dedicated to have proper pool of resources to help irrigation and flood mitigation projects develop in the state. Okay. So all these projects with estimated cost, the estimated cost is 11,500 crores. Remember this figure, 11,500 crores. And remember these two rivers, Kosi River. So this is the Kosi-Mechi intrastate link, intrastate. So this is within the state basically, within Bihar, right? So Kosi. And the another river, this is an important tributary of Mahananda River. Okay, this is another important tributary of Mahananda River. Now, what is the significance of this intrastate project related to Kosi River? The importance is, Kosi River is gets floods, right? So Kosi is the sorrow of Bihar, yes or no? That's why, is it sorrow of Bihar or Son is the sorrow of Bihar? Tell me, which river is known as sorrow of Bihar, Son or Kosi? Anyone? Okay, I'll be waiting for your answers. Just go through all these facts as well, right? So you will tell me which is known as sorrow of Bihar, Son or Kosi. Okay, so Kosi also, gets a lot of floods. So it is overflowing So you have surplus water available in this river. So this project basically wants to transfer that surplus water from this river to this river. Simple, right? So here you can have proper irrigation from the excess water of the Kosi river, and that would help reduce the excess water in the Kosi river and then mitigate the chances of floods. Simple. So these kind of projects the government is also planning to invest into, right? They have proper allocation. Also, there are several other projects going on related to barrages, river pollution abatement, irrigation projects. They will be funding them. In addition, what they are planning to do, in addition, just a second. Yes. So, in addition to this, what is their plan is survey and investigation of Kosi related flood mitigation and irrigation projects will be undertaken. Proper surveys will also be undertaken for projects as well as flood mitigation in the Kosi catchment area or any project related to Kosi river, right? Government will provide assistance to the following states as well. So it is not only Bihar which has to face every year a lot of damage, a lot of loss due to floods. There are other states as well. So you have Assam, okay, and Brahmaputra river is responsible for that thing in Assam. So government also will provide assistance to other states like Assam due to floods every year by Brahmaputra river, right? To Himachal Pradesh, which also has suffered from such losses. Uttarakhand, you know, there have been cases of cloud bursts in the state and massive landslides. Then Sikkim as well, which also witnessed devastating flash floods and landslides. So all these states, Sikkim, Uttarakhand, Himachal, Assam, central government will provide them assistance to recover from the damage and then rebuild their infrastructure. They will have for Kerala as well, of course, because you know Kerala landslides we recently have witnessed. So it is not the thing that if they have not announced something in budget will not be there. So whatever incidents they fall in the series will also be taken care of, right? Of course, Kerala also needs a lot of help. The state has witnessed a very devastating landslide. Yes. Okay. So next is your tourism. For tourism, what do they hold? Tourism, you know, has always been a priority. So it is also a source for developing your economy, also developing your socio-cultural ties, your tourism industry. So tourism has always been a part of our civilization. Government's efforts in positioning India as a global tourist destination is there. So we can create jobs through tourism industry. We can stimulate investments. We can unlock a lot of economic opportunities in this sector. So government wants to develop tourist centers, pilgrim centers to have more employment opportunities and economic development. Comprehensive development of Vishnupad temple corridors. So you have these Kashi Vishwanath corridor. So this year's budget they have announced Vishnupad temple corridor. Vishnupad temple is also a very important temple. So there is this belief that the temple, it is first of all it is in Gaya, Bihar, and the mythology so says that the footprint, the pad, Vishnu pad, right, is of Lord Vishnu there. So they worship it. So this is Vishnupad temple. So they want to develop Vishnupad temple corridor, and then of course Mahabodhi temple corridor in Bihar. Mahabodhi temple is one of the UNESCO's World Heritage Sites. You must be knowing, right? Mahabodhi temple is the place where under the Bodhi tree Buddha got enlightenment, right? So Mahabodhi temple corridor in Bihar will be supported, modeled on the successful Kashi Vishwanath temple model. So the success of Kashi Vishwanath corridor will be the model for these development of these corridors as well, Vishnupad temple corridor and Mahabodhi temple corridor, right? Then apart from this, they will have projects in Rajgir, of course, Nalanda. So Rajgir holds ancient significance. Rajgir, as you know, has been capital as well. So holds immense religious significance for Hindus. It holds significance for Hindus, Buddhists, Jains as well. It has been a very important place historically. So the 20th Tirthankar, who are these Tirthankars? So these Tirthankars are from Jainism, you know, Tirthankars, right? They are their Tirthankars. You must have heard about Tirthankars. Anyone would let me know? So these are their spiritual gurus or leaders, right? The enlightened ones in the Jainism, as they call it. Yes, right? So Tirthankars. So it is believed the 20th Tirthankar in Jainism, the Muni Suvrat, okay, temple in the Jain temple complex is ancient. So they want to develop this thing there. And the Saptarishi or the hot springs form a warm water Brahmakund that is also sacred over there. So this Brahmakund, they also want to develop in Rajgir. A comprehensive development initiative for Rajgir will be undertaken. So in Rajgir, they have this Jain temple. Then you have such hot springs. They also have significance. Yes. All these sacred places related to Jainism, Buddhism, Hinduism will be developed. So for Rajgir, they will have a comprehensive development plan. Then government will support the development of Nalanda, you see. Recently in the news you must have seen. So developing the Nalanda University, which was a treasury of knowledge for India, which was destroyed unfortunately. Reviving Nalanda is one of the other priorities, important priorities in the budget. Reviving the Nalanda universities to its glorious past which it had. Right? Next thing. Then Odisha, of course. So in this process, Odisha, the state of Odisha cannot be left behind. Odisha also is rich in beauty, is rich in flora as well as fauna. So Odisha's scenic beauty, temples, of course, there are lot of temples in Odisha as well. Which you have temples, monuments, craftsmanship, wildlife sanctuaries, natural landscapes, pristine beaches and all. So which make it ultimate tourism destination. So Odisha will also be their target. So these Bihar, Odisha, Rajgir, Nalanda, these are their priorities to develop as important tourist centers and destinations and then integrate them into tourism, broader tourism industry of India, right? Next priority. So this was your 7th priority which we have discussed. I hope till this point everything is clear. We have discussed almost everything. Now priority number 8. So this is your 8th priority, which is innovation and R&D, of course. So you develop any project, you want to have small modular reactors, you want to have sustainable energy efficiency targets and all. But that cannot be done without R&D. So government is also dedicatedly, constantly creating R&D funds. So promoting research and development in every sector. You have to have R&D for further development of any sector. So this is Anusandhan National Research Fund, which they want to establish for promoting R&D, right? Anusandhan National Research Fund. Remember this. So government will operationalize the Anusandhan National Research Fund for basic research in prototype development. It will also set up a mechanism for spurring private sector driven research and innovation, okay, at commercial scale with a financing pool of 1 lakh crore in line with announcement in the interim budget. So they will operationalize this Anusandhan National Research Fund, but they also want private sector to actively contribute and participate in research and development. They will also contribute say 1 lakh crore in the process. But private sector is something which they want to have their active participation, they want to encourage, right, in R&D, because R&D also is not only sole responsibility of the government. Government can do, but you know, there is a fiscal limitation. Government has already breached the fiscal deficit targets for so long, and they have limitations, they have limited amount of funds available. Then space economy, space economic something which is developing so fast right now, space economy, right? So you have marine economy, you have digital economy, you have physical economy, you have space economy. Now space is also not at a very distance from our economic expectations, right? Our desires, our needs. So we want to explore space, we want to capitalize space technologies, opportunities also to develop ourselves. So this is another emerging area, cannot be ignored. With our continued emphasis on expanding the space economy by 5 times in the next 10 years, a venture capital fund of 1000 crores will be set up. So remember this figure for the space economy which has been highlighted. What is the target of the government for space economy? Developing the expanding the space economy by 5 times in the next 10 years. So easy to remember, 5 times in next 10 years. Simple. Developing the space economy by 5 times in next 10 years. For this purpose, they will establish a venture capital fund of 1000 crores. Okay, 1000 crores. What is venture capital fund? So in this you have pooled funds from your investors, right? Pooled funds from big investors for your startups and all these industries which have a high growth prospect. So they will establish this venture capital fund of 1000 crores. So remember this amount. Venture capital fund will be of 1000 crores. And the target for space economy is expanding it 5 times in the next 10 years, right? Then the 9th priority and the last priority but not least is your next generation reforms. Not specific topics, but whatever are required to have next generation development and reforms. Economic policy framework, of course. So having a proper economic policy framework to support the economic development process is there. And government will initiate and incentivize reforms for improving productivity of factors of production. So what does the government wants to focus in economic policy? That we should have proper productivity. Efficiency is the focus. Less input and more output. Less input and more output. So your factors of production, what are the factors of production? There are 4 factors of production. You should always remember them on your fingertips, right? What are the 4 factors of production? Land, labor, capital and entrepreneurship. These are known as the 4 factors of production, because you produce any goods or service, you require these factors, right? And what are their earnings called? So land, labor, capital and entrepreneurship. Land receives rent, labor receives wages or compensation of employees as we call, capital receives interest, and then entrepreneur receives profit. So remember these factors of production: land, labor, capital, entrepreneur or entrepreneurship. Government wants to have. We want to have more productivity in each and every factor of production. That would translate into more efficiency for Indian industries. With less input, we will be able to produce more. Facilitating markets and sectors to become more efficient. So efficiency is the target here. These reforms will cover all factors of production, as I told you: land, labor, capital and entrepreneurship. Technology as well. Technology is very integral, okay? Effective implementation of several of these reforms between with the collaboration between center and states will be there. Also promoting competitive federalism here. Competitive federalism, incentivizing states to have faster implementation of reforms, okay? So this 50-year interest-free loan, as we have discussed in the previous part, remember this thing, 50-year interest-free loans. Government wants to have competitive federalism as well. So there are these concepts, cooperative federalism, competitive federalism. In cooperative federalism, what is the thing is, so Niti Aayog, for example, I have discussed with you, is an example of cooperative federalism, where each organ of the government, the subsequent levels or tiers of the government, they actively participate in the decision making. But then what is competitive federalism? In competitive federalism, you try to incur a sense of competition for the sake of healthy development. Simple, right? Cooperation is also important, but then healthy competition is also important for these states and UTs to be on a line of development path with alignment with what the central government has highlighted in the budget as their budgetary goals, right? Simple. So then land related reforms. Now this is again very important. They are planning to digitize, land records. This is very important. India has been suffering from this problem of land records before independence, right? After independence also it was a huge challenge. One of the challenges of the Indian agriculture sector, fragmentation of land holdings. We have a lot of population. They don't have huge land holdings. They have land holdings which are again then fragmented, say in between if there are 4 members in a family, so each one of them has a separate parcel out of that land which they are owning. Fragmented land leaves lesser chance for mechanized agriculture. That is one of the reasons why Indian agriculture has not been heavily able to mechanize, right? Also, no proper land records, land disputes. So government is planning to do one thing. Let's have proper digital records of lands to avoid any conflicts. Proper records will enable proper development activities and policy implementation as well, right? So land related reforms in both rural and urban areas is their target. Now what they have highlighted for this thing, what they are planning to do for this is land administration, planning and management, proper land administration, planning and management, urban planning, usage and building bylaws. Now these will be incentivized for completion within next 3 years through appropriate fiscal support, having proper administration, planning and management both in urban and rural areas in next 3 years. Then rural land related actions, particularly in rural areas, what they have said, assignment of unique land parcel identification number, ULPIN. Remember this, Bhu Aadhar for all lands. So like we have Jan Aadhar, they are planning to have a Bhu Aadhar, okay? So unique identity for the land as well. This will be a 14-digit alphanumeric digit number, okay? So 14-digit number it will be, unique land parcel identification number. So every land parcel will be assigned a unique number. It will be easier to track and record such land information. You remember this thing, this is important, okay? Bhu Aadhar. Then digitization of cadastral maps. Cadastral maps, these are the maps which give you a very, very detailed and extensive information and picture regarding land parcels, their boundaries, their ownership, their usage and all, right? So digitizing these cadastral maps, having a proper Aadhar for the land now, and then survey of map subdivisions, proper surveys, establishment of proper land registry, farmers registry, linking them together will solve a lot of problem, because that will help in having a pool of information, that too in a form of digital record, right? Is this clear to all of you so far? Remember this thing, Bhu Aadhar, okay? So this is Aadhar for the land. Like we have Aadhar number for ourselves, unique identity number. So this will be a unique identity number for the land records for the land parcels in the rural areas. Then if we talk about the urban land related actions, land records in urban areas will also be digitized with GIS mapping. Of course, GIS we are heavily integrating in mapping and all. So GIS mapping, GIS technology will be utilized for urban land records. IT based system for property record administration, updation, tax administration will be established. So in urban areas, you will have GIS technology, use of IT based system for tax administration, for land records, for administration, property, any such related records, you will have IT based solutions. These will also facilitate improving the financial position of urban local bodies. So it will also empower urban local bodies in better management of all these tasks, right? This is their plan for urban land related actions. Then if we talk about labor related reforms, so services to labor. Labor is something very important. So government will facilitate the provision of wide array of services to labor, including those for employment and skilling. So providing employment, apart from employment, providing skills to the labor. A comprehensive integration of e-Shram portal with other portals. So integrating the e-Shram portal with other portal is one such action in the series. What is e-Shram portal? So you know e-Shram portal is a comprehensive opportunity. So it is a platform where you have services, all kind of services available for your labor, for the labor, right? So it facilitates the services provided to the labor. Anyone there? You know what is e-Shram portal, right? So integrating such portal will with all other portals will be one such priority, and then open architecture databases for rapidly changing labor market, skill requirements, available job roles, and a mechanism to connect job aspirants with potential employers, all these things. So, you know, we have seen that they are also planning to provide internship opportunities. We have discussed all these things in the previous parts. Remember this thing, e-Shram portal, one of the very important portals providing the labor access to a lot of services. This portal they want to integrate with all other portals, right, to expand the scope. Shram Suvidha and Samadhan portal. So this is again important, Shram Suvidha and Samadhan portal. Any grievance they have, any grievance which these labor they have, they can access this portal, they can lodge their complaint on this portal and then try to get the solutions out of these grievances, right? So Shram Suvidha and Samadhan portal. Shram Suvidha and Samadhan portals will be revamped. They are planning to revamp them to enhance ease of compliance for industry and trade. Now, this is not only labor centric or something favoring the labor side of the industry. This will also help the employer. So this portal, remember this portal, this is important, Shram Suvidha and Samadhan portal, it will facilitate grievance redressal. So it is a mechanism will help both the employees as well as the employers. So it will help resolving these issues, any complaints, any grievances in the industry or anyone related to industry and trade bodies, right? So this is the thing, remember e-Shram which is already there, and then Shram Suvidha and Samadhan portal, they want to revamp this for grievance redressal. Then capital and entrepreneurship related reforms. So they want to have for meeting financial needs of the economy, government will bring out a financial sector vision and a strategy document to prepare the sector in terms of size, capacity and skill. Given the importance of financial sector in the economy, government will have a proper roadmap, a proper plan for financial sector, In financial sector, expanding the size of the sector, working on the capacity of the sector, and working on the skills required in the financial sector for proper employment and development will be their target. They will set the agenda for next 5 years and then work in collaboration with governments, regulators, financial institutions to have proper financial sector growth in the Indian economy, right? This is very generalist thing, need not discuss anything here. Now, this is something really very important, taxonomy for climate finance. Taxonomy for climate finance. They are planning to have a proper taxonomy, you know, proper categories which will help investors identify which investment will be climate friendly or sustainable. This will attract climate friendly or sustainable investments. So it will help investors decide. It will also help these industries or climate related or sustainable industries to grow in future course of time. right? So this is important. They are planning to bring out certain taxonomy, the categories, and taxonomy for climate finance, financing the climate related projects. It will help both the owners of such projects, or the industries or the factory owners, and then the investors to get better returns, because now they can judge out of these taxonomical categories that which are really the sustainable climate projects, which will be their sustainable investments. Okay, so government will develop a taxonomy for climate finance for enhancing availability of capital for such projects, and helping the investor also decide which investment should they go for, right? And overall, it will help in our transition to more greener GDP or green economy. So only this much is remaining. I hope we will do this thing in the next class. We have discussed till taxonomy for climate finance. Okay, under this priority, now a few things only are remaining. The class is already too long, so I'll take up from this in the next class. I'll resume from here. After this, only a few points are remaining. So after this taxonomy, you have variable capital company structure, NPS, Vatsalya, ease of doing business and all. After that, only this much is there, and then we have part B in the series. So your priorities will be over. It will take 5 or 7 minutes or 5 to 10 minutes more in the next class. Then in the next class, we will resume from indirect taxes, what all the provisions the government has brought for indirect taxes, right? Reduced or levied or increased, whatever is there, it will be clear to all the provisions related to indirect taxes, and then direct taxes will also come, will be clear. Not much portion is remaining now, so don't worry, just go through all these data which I told you, and I'm also highlighting whatever the important fact, concept and data is, just revise them, okay? And complete your budget preparation along with the classes. I hope in maximum 2 class we will be able to complete this. I hope so. Let's see. But it will not go beyond more than 3 classes now, okay? So this is the thing. Is there any question? Anyone? So we will resume from here. Variable capital company structure in the next class. Any doubts? Anyone? I hope you enjoyed the class and everything is clear to you. You understood all these concepts, and just remember whatever I asked you to remember. Okay? No doubts? All right then. Okay, keep on studying, keep on revising. Still, if you have any doubts, you can ask me in the next class, and I'll see you in the next class. Have a very good day. Thank you so much for staying focused and interactive, and see you in the next session. Thank you so much.